Good morning. Just going to let everybody join and then we can get started. Okay, awesome. Okay, looks like most people are here, so that's great. So welcome to another Thought Farmer webinar, which is picking, planning and perfecting a new intranet. A couple of housekeeping things. We will be recording the webinar and we will share the link out afterwards. So feel free to leave if you need to. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A box and we should have time to answer those at the end as well. My name's Corinne. I'm an account executive here at Thought Farmer. And in my role, I work with many customers who are evaluating their options and in the early stages of planning their intranets. And I'm delighted to be joined by Jessica Dill, our Director of Product Experience, who is an expert in planning and perfecting your intranet. So back in 2006, when Thought Farmer was founded, there weren't too many internet vendors around. In fact, it was quite a new concept. But since then, we have worked with many companies around the world to pick, plan and perfect their intranets. And you're likely here today because you either identified that you need an intranet or you already have one, but it isn't quite performing as you'd hoped. And once you start getting into the world of internal communications, it can feel quite overwhelming. And we get it. There are so many vendors to choose from. Each have their own strengths. Planning an intranet can feel challenging, especially if you're new to this. So how do you go about picking your most suited platform and then planning and perfecting it without it feeling overwhelming? Today, we're going to be covering the common challenges that companies face, choosing the right system, how to evaluate your options, planning your intranet, and then maximizing your intranet's impact. So first up, defining your intranet's purpose. So over the years, we've definitely found the best way to start your project is by understanding the challenges that your organization is facing. This is really going to help you decide which features are most important to you and your company. Select which vendor is going to help you overcome those challenges and in the long run, measure your success. So by speaking with people within your organization, from all of the employees, the execs as well, you can start to gather information to outline the challenges currently faced. These could look something like information is hard to find, there's no single source of truth, communication is scattered, forms are all paper-based and manual, and employees have no place to celebrate each other. Challenges will vary across departments and roles, so it's really important to make sure you're asking everyone within different teams. And these are very common challenges that we hear from our customers when they first come to us. But to really paint a full picture, you really want to understand the why. So the challenges on the previous slides are kind of the surface level. But you want to keep asking why to get to the heart of the challenge. For example, our internet is a dumping ground for files. Why is that? Content creators are reverting to Word to author instead of using our current internet. But why is that? It's because the tool is hard to use for non-technical users and publishing is restricted to one single user. So yes, the challenge is that the internet is a dumping ground for files, but really the challenge is that the tool is too hard to use. So if you keep doing this for all of your challenges, you'll have a really thorough understanding of what you need in your new intranet. Then once you have your challenges laid out, you can start to frame your challenges as goals. And a great strategy is to align them with your organization goals. And we found that customers who do this are able to get more buy-in from their executive team, as you're showing that the new intranet is going to support the whole company. So an example here is the challenge could be that your employees avoid using the internet because it's mainly made up of files, making it hard to search and browse. If you've ever tried to search for a PDF, you know how challenging this can be. So the requirement is that the new system must make it easy to create and organize content in a variety of formats. The intranet goal is to give employees a central source of information, but this is then laddering up to the organizational goal of providing exceptional customer support. So again, you can keep doing this for all of your challenges, so you create a really thorough understanding of what your company challenges and goals are. And when you first set out into the world of internal communication and content management, there are actually a few different systems that you can choose from. There's going to be many different people weighing in on the project with their own opinion on which system that they would prefer to use. So it's key to evaluate the proposed system directions to ensure that you're going to get the best that's suited for you. So there are 3 common directions that we see customers going in: Frankennet, SharePoint, and out-of-the-box intranet. So the first is a Frankennet. This is a term that we've coined a thought farmer to describe a site that is built as a workaround. They're often built over time, usually unintentionally, using different tools that teams are using. It could be something like a WordPress website, it could be a few different cloud drives, different tools, all kind of cobbled together to fill gaps. It ends up just being quite a disjointed solution. And while it might be cheap upfront to build a Frankennet, there will be a lot of wasted time and resources dedicated to a problem that will be hard to fix in the long run. The second common direction is SharePoint. We've probably all heard of it. Most of us have also probably used it at some point. Now, SharePoint actually started as a document management system, so it's not designed to be an intranet. And although it does have a lot of customization features and also a very strong integration with the Microsoft, it does require a lot of development to really make it reach its full potential. And while SharePoint might seem free as part of the Microsoft package, it does come with a lot of hidden costs. So industry experts note that most organizations really underestimate the amount of cost that is needed. And then for every $1 customers spend on licensing fees, they spend $8 on customizations and integrations. And then the third direction that we see and we love customers taking is the intranet platform. So intranets are generally easy to build and maintain. So that's going to remove the burden from IT. The best intranet software is designed with features to maximize engagement and hence culture and create a vibrant interactive community. Intranet products can also align with core business values and strategies, making it really easy for you to achieve those intranet and organizational goals. So, assuming that you've selected your chosen path, which we hope is an out-of-the-box intranet, you're going to start getting into many conversations, demos, trials, and more from a variety of intranet vendors out there. There are so many different ways you can find and compare your vendors. A simple Google search for intranets is going to generate so many options for you. So you can take a look through their websites, look for what challenges each vendor solves, perhaps what industry they specialize in, and what features they have. And internet software is definitely a crowded market. Some platforms won't be a good fit from the get-go. So it's really important to identify these early and move on from there. So when you come to actually evaluating, it's really important to know what your criteria is. So you can take the goals that you set out in the first stage and start to map out what your criteria is and what questions you should be asking your vendors. You can split your criteria into 2 parts, the product side of things and the vendor side of things. So product criteria questions could look like, does the product have the features that you need to meet your internet goals? Does the product integrate with our current systems? So this could be cloud drives, user authentication, HR systems. What level of security does the product need to have to meet your company requirements? And how easy is this software to set up and maintain? And this will impact you later on when you start to plan your implementation. On the vendor side of things, it's really important to understand what the vendor is going to offer aside from the product. So you can ask questions like, what support is provided and how good is it? What other companies does the vendor work with and are they similar companies to you? How often is a product updated? Perhaps you could ask for a product roadmap. What is the cost and does it fit within our budget? And does the vendor offer professional services? Now, if you're really looking to just take that level of support to the next level, it's good to know what the vendor has available to you. So you probably want to speak to a handful of vendors to get an idea of what's available to you. And then you can whistle it down to a short list and compare in more detail. So there's 3 steps here that we tend to recommend. The first is using software review sites such as Capterra and G2. They're a great resource for finding a suitable vendor because you're hearing it from their customers first. You can also compare the different vendors on these sites based on reviews and criteria that matter to you. You could build a scoring system, scoring against features and company credentials that are important to you. These could be communication features, document management system, and you can use this to build a ranking system. You can score each vendor and see who comes out on top. And then finally, it's really important to conduct a risk assessment. So this could include things like good security practices, data backups, plan for any disasters. It's also good to consider the vendor's time and business stability and longevity. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Jessica, who's going to be talking through the planning and perfecting side of things.
Thanks, Corinne. So you've gone through the buying process, you've selected your intranet vendor, and now it's time to plan the rollout of your intranet. So one of the first things that you want to do is set your team. So create that implementation team, decide who's going to be on the team and what will be their responsibilities. And then you want to get the team together and revisit those objectives that you set at the beginning of this process. You really want the entire team to be aligned and make sure they have a shared understanding of what you want to achieve with your intranet. This is the time to really start looking at your content. So you want to decide what content is going to be moved over to the new intranet, what content might stay in existing systems, and then actually evaluating your content. Is it current? Is it still relevant? Can content be archived or deleted? And then you need to figure out how you're going to organize all that content on your intranet. So you need to come up with a navigation structure. And you may want to test that navigation structure with your employees. You're going to be looking at, you want to define the migration process. So this is the content migration process, which will happen a little bit later in the implementation. But you want to start identifying who's going to be doing the content migration. Again, setting guidelines for the types of content that will be on the intranet, and then creating that process for tracking the migration. Near the beginning of the project, you're also going to want to think about the look and feel of your intranet. So do you want to create a custom brand for the intranet? Maybe have a name for the intranet, a logo, you could have a mascot, or maybe you're going to really stick closely to your corporate brand. So good to start planning that quite early. And then you need to think about whether you're going to be integrating with some of your existing systems or whether you can shut those systems down. And then developing a training plan. So this is going to be training people who will be managing content on your intranet, as well as coming up with training for employees who will be using the intranet. So I mentioned the implementation team. This is something you want to set really early. This could be the same team that went through the vendor selection process, or it could be different. But these are sort of the key roles that we see on that team. So there should be a project sponsor. This is the owner of the project, often a senior executive in communications or marketing. And then you're going to have a key project coordinator, and this is the person, or it could be a small group of people who oversee the launch. They're coordinating all the resources, they're working with the different departments and teams. And this could be a project manager or stakeholders from typically, again, marketing, communications, or human resources. And then you do want to have IT involved in your implementation team. They're going to be looking at how you're going to be integrating with internal services. And then when you're doing your planning, you've set up your implementation team, you also want to start thinking about your governance for when you launch your intranet. So this will be the team of people who will be responsible for managing the intranet on an ongoing basis. These are the the types of roles that we see on that team. Again, it's probably going to be members of the implementation team. They'll probably continue on into your post-launch team. But again, you could have some different people joining. But there will be the all-important intranet administrator, and this is sort of that key contact person who is responsible for the day-to-day functioning of the intranet. And then there will be probably a group of intranet champions, and these are power users. There's typically a representative from each department or office or team. And they are trained, they're usually managing content on the internet, and they are acting as an advocate for the internet within their group. So these are sort of the typical project phases that we see. So again, phase one is that planning that we were just talking about. Phase two is the content audit. This is the deep dive into your content and evaluating it, and then designing the navigation structure. Phase three is sort of implementation and training. So this is where you may begin building out your site, sort of coming up with a sort of a skeleton of the site, maybe adding your branding, deciding what you're going to be putting on the homepage, what functionality you're going to turn on for the intranet, and then training the people who are going to be managing content. And then you move into the content migration phase. So this is where content is going to be moved over to the intranet, formatted, and then there will be sort of a final review of the intranet, and then you will launch. And usually there's lots of fun activities around the launch. So you're promoting the new intranet to employees. So this can seem, somewhat overwhelming, all these different phases, but there are lots of great resources that will help you with this planning. And at Thought Farmer, we do have a professional services team where we could guide you through each of these phases sort of step by step. So you've launched your intranet, employees are really excited, you've got great momentum. You want to continue to build on that momentum and continually perfect your intranet. And one of the ways you're going to do that is by measuring the impact. Just that, seeing how valuable the intranet is. And to do that, you're going to want to develop some key performance indicators to track whether you're meeting your objectives that you set at the beginning of this project. So for example, maybe you had set the goal to have the intranet improve internal communications. So maybe you would like to track things like the number of news posts that are being added to the intranet, or the percentage of employees who are reading news on the internet. Ideally, you can start from a baseline of current performance, and this will help you set targets for improvement for the future. So you're getting all this data from things like surveys, from analytics. You can start to answer questions such as when is the best time to send communications, or what pieces of content are really important to employees, or are employees interacting with the internet and each other. And once you get those insights, you can start to create action items. So for example, maybe you found out that Wednesdays at 1 p.m., that's when everybody is on the internet. So maybe that's a great time to post important announcements. Or you've discovered there's some content that is really important to the organization, but it's not getting as much traction as you had hoped. So maybe that is content you want to feature on the homepage. Or employees are not adopting the internet as quickly as you'd like. So maybe you want to look at different ways that you can encourage usage and adoption. So how do you do that? There's lots of tactics to engage employees, but essentially the internet needs to offer them something that they want. They need to have a reason to go there. So some ways you can do that. You could include key content on the internet and only have it on the internet, or move critical business processes to the internet. So for example, if you had a form that people needed to fill in to get reimbursed for mileage, and it was only available on the internet, that is going to drive people there. So the more that you can integrate critical tools or content that employees need to do their job, if you can get that on the internet, that is what is going to increase adoption. You can also look at, it is a good thing to invest in education and training. You want to make sure that employees know what the internet offers, why they should be using it, and how to use it. And then you can also include some fun activities that help build culture. And I have some examples. This is Coco. Coco is the mascot for Chorus Orthodontists Intranet. And they use Coco to help, to encourage employees to go to the internet and explore. So they'll place Coco on a page that they want to feature, and then run a contest and say, can you find Coco, or what is Coco wearing today? Rick Engineering does a similar thing. They're trying to get people to use the intranet as well as interact with each other. So employees can get points and badges, and then ultimately prizes for doing certain actions like sharing knowledge or giving praise to a colleague. And then at Thought Farmer, we were also looking at ways that we could, we have a lot of employees who were working remotely, and we wanted to have a way that employees could connect with each other. So we used our mascot, Jack the Owl. So Jack posts a question once a week, and they're usually really sort of fun things like, post what's your favorite childhood picture, or which food are you? And then people will comment, and it's a great way to learn about people that you work with.
Okay,
back to Corin.
Thanks, Jessica. So to recap, there's just 6 steps to finding a new internet and perfecting it. So it's really important to understand your challenges and align those with your organizational goals. Choose your path and pick the vendor that's right for you. And then plan your internet and keep measuring to keep improving. So we will get to the questions in a second, but you should see a poll pop up on your screen. Looks a little bit like this. And we are interested to see what topics you would like to learn from us for the webinar series that we're planning for next year. So there's a few options on here, so please vote for 1 or 2. Solving workplace challenges within internet. So how intranets can solve common workplace challenges. Cost benefit and analysis of an internet. So what is the actual cost of setting up your internet and the long-term benefits that's going to bring to an organization. Essential features of a modern internet, an overview of what features a modern internet should have to meet business needs and employee expectations. The role of intranets in remote work. So discussing how intranets can help remote work by enabling employees to work from anywhere. And designing an internet to optimize engagement. Design tips and strategies that will help you optimize user engagement. And if there's anything on here that you don't see, feel free to pop it in the chat, and we can include that as well. Alrighty. So I have a question here, and Jessica, I'm going to point this at you. In your experience, how long does it take to launch an intranet?
We typically, when we do, I'm part of the professional services team, and when we launch an intranet with customer, we typically say it's about 4 months. Now, I have seen it range from, I think the fastest I've ever seen is, I have seen someone launch in 3 weeks. It was it wasn't a full intranet. And I've seen some customers take over a year. It really does depend, but on average, 4 months.
Okay, awesome. And then another one here, migrating content sounds quite overwhelming. What is the migration process? Am I recreating the content or am I linking?
Yes, it can be either. It really does depend on the organization. Some organizations decide they want all of their content within the intranet, so that would be moving it over. That could be moving documents over, cutting and pasting content, creating content, fresh content, or you could decide to integrate with another tool and essentially link to the content that lives in, let's say, a document management system.
Okay, awesome. And I think it's important to remember, like, each organization is unique as well. So everyone's going to have their own way of doing things. So, alrighty. So I think that's all we have for questions. So we'll be following up shortly with the recording and some helpful resources at this stage of the buying process. And we'll be in touch soon with another